Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Council. It's a very special week this week, of course, as the sci-fi epic Dune has released. This is obviously Jack speaking, as you can tell. And this has been a very anticipated movie for me. And we're about to get into it. Full spoilers, talk about everything in the movie. If you haven't seen the movie, probably shouldn't listen. Go check it out on the closest IMAX theater to you, and then come back to this review and listen to all of our thoughts. Joining me today to talk about Dune and all spoilers, I have first and foremost Constance.
Hello, everyone.
I also have Destiny.
Guys.
Of course, it's a Rebecca Ferguson movie, so I have Natalia.
Hello.
And finally, with his own Dune book, we have Antony.
Yes. If you're just listening, I bought the book yesterday. I'm excited to get into it now.
Yesterday.
Yes. Well, left the movie, went to the mall where the movie theater was, went to the book.
Right next door, there's a Barnes & Noble. You just walk on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had an hour to kill in between that and the French Dispatch, which was excellent.
Are you going to stop at the halfway point before? Are you going to go to the movie?
I don't know. We'll get into it. I think maybe reading Dune is helpful to watching Dune. So maybe I'll read the second part before seeing Dune Part 2.
Okay. So what's everyone's overall thoughts on this movie? Let's throw it to Destiny first.
I feel like I always go first when I'm here. But
You're never here, so.
You're the best.
Okay.
And you are the best. You're my bestie, though.
Aww. But okay, so Dune, I love Dune so much. I saw Thursday night. I saw it in Dolby Cinema. And oh my gosh, I left the movie. And you know what's funny? The first thing I thought of during the movie before I really started loving it was during one of Rebecca's scenes. I thought of you, Nat. I'm like, oh my God, Nat's gonna love this. But and then I think midway through the movie was when I really started to love it because I got more into the story. But oh my gosh, I love this film so much that I was, if you know me, I'm a Snyder fan. And so I was trying to rank, the 2021 movies, but I haven't yet. So I need to start on that. And man, I was thinking Dune may be a challenger for a top spot. I don't know. It could be a tie. I have no clue. That's how much I love Dune. If you know me, you know that is like a big statement. So I love the story, the music, everything about this is perfect for me.
Really good. It's currently my number one, but many people probably expected that. Shocker. Yeah, shocker indeed.
Right.
Let's go to Nat next.
I loved it. I was mainly just going in for this for my favorite MILF, Rebecca Louisa Ferguson Sudstrom. Pulling out the full name, let's go. And I loved it, and I was like, wait, this was so much better than I thought it was gonna be. But like, I haven't read the book. I don't really have much of a want to read it. Sorry. I'm busy reading all the shit that I have to for class, and I can't take it.
I didn't write it. I don't feel sorry.
Yeah, that's true. But like, I was able to get more than I thought I would. Like I feel like a lot of the thing that's like kind of been scaring people to going in to see it is just like, they're like, oh, it's so big and epic, talks about da-da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, that's the thing that I was scared about. But you go in and you get, surprisingly, if you pay attention, if you listen, you're going to get a lot of stuff that's going on the screen. They're not going to tell you explicitly, even though they do have a whole lot of big fun exposition dump in a really subtle way. But very good. 10 out of 10 would recommend. I love the Rebecca Ferguson show featuring our favorite twink, Timothy Chalamet.
Okay, and then let's hear Antony's thoughts next.
So I feel like I'm in a weird place because if you follow me on Letterboxd, which, if you want to, if you have one, you can.
Drop that at, boy.
With the at, it's probably Antony Post, so there's an underscore in between the two. But if you follow me there, you'll see that I gave the film 4 stars out of 5. And I feel odd because I feel that means that people think I didn't like the movie. I like the movie a lot. But I do think that as much as I appreciate the spectacle and the unparalleled, impeccable craft of the film, I did find myself not really feeling anything. And I think that's because I didn't really emotionally connect with the characters in any way that isn't the actor's work. Like, I feel like Rebecca Ferguson and Timothée Chalamet are doing such great work here because any connection you have to them is their performances, and it's not in the script for me. Again, I found myself more emotionally connecting to Denis Villeneuve than any of his characters, which I think says something about the movie. But again, I still think it's a really impressive technical feat. And I do think that Dune Part 1 could be made I could enhance that when I see Dune Part 2 and some of the more thematic layers are added. When I don't know if this is going to be a trilogy, so I think it's supposed to be a two-parter. So whenever the story concludes and it comes to a thematic conclusion, I feel like Dune Part 1 could improve. But being here in the present, I only can look at Dune Part 1 and say, there's a lot of spectacle. There isn't a lot of things. Like, for example, Oscar Isaac and Rebecca Ferguson are wonderful together. They really only get like one scene of dialogue, and it's when he's telling her, will you protect Paul? And I'm like, why in 2.5 hours are we not having more scenes of characters talking about themselves rather than just being pieces on a chessboard? So again, I just want, because I feel like the rest of the panel is going to take the reins and praise the movie as it should be. I am so for what this movie is in terms of genre storytelling, and please go see this in the theater if you feel comfortable. I saw it twice in IMAX and it was incredible. So again, I love a lot of it. I do think though character development, I would have liked a little bit more character development personally, but I'm still a fan of the film. I still will see it multiple times, and I love Denis Villeneuve. But I think it speaks to Denis Villeneuve's credit that this is probably my least favorite film of his that I've seen. And again, that just speaks to how wonderful he is as a filmmaker, that this is like his low point for me. But it's still a really fun film that I can't wait to see explored more. And I'm definitely, after the crescendo of the last shot that is this film, I cannot wait for Dune Part 2. I will be there opening night. I think it was a really bold, very risky sci-fi film that I'm happy exists in this modern cinematic landscape.
And the last shot was Rebecca Ferguson.
She was the second to last.
We don't care about the big group of people, man. I know I don't. No.
She had a very mean look on her face too.
Yeah.
So we can
Natalia, when Rebecca
Fuck shit
Ferguson
up.
was there, Rebecca Ferguson, anytime she was on screen, that Natalia would open her eyes, and when she was on screen, Natalia would close her eyes. So to be fair,
Take a little
the
nap.
last shot for Natalia was Rebecca Ferguson.
I took a little nap every time she wasn't on screen. Yeah.
Then Hans Zimmer just woke you up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of his best scores, I will say.
Really
good.
Really great.
Really good.
Okay, sorry. Go Queen Constance.
Yes. Now, Constance, what did you think of the movie?
Well, it's strange. I'm the kind of person where I rely heavily on trailers. I'm like, this is your chance to get me. If I don't know it, like if it doesn't say Batman or something obvious, if it's new to me, I need the trailer to be like, this is why you want to come see me. And I never heard of Dune. But then last March, this little virus came along and stopped me from living the life I was living. And I got invited into a chat where Jack spent this whole year going, Dune. So I feel like by osmosis, I became excited. So it was weird to go to a movie and I go in there and I'm like, when I actually walked in and sat down, I was like, I don't know what I'm about to watch. I know there's sand. I know Timothée Chalamet's here. But what's the plot? I have no idea. So it was so weird. And I was very nervous for like the first 10, 15 minutes because there was a lot of names. Like, here's this planet's name, and here's this group, and here's this group. And I was like, oh no, I'm not going to be able to keep track of this. And I was so nervous. But then about 20 minutes in, I started to get sucked in. And certainly by the end, I was like, you know, like on the edge of my seat, like, we'll get to it, but like the helicopter-esque in the storm scene, I was very invested and I was like, I hope they make it, you know. So, and sci-fi is not usually a genre that I am drawn to, not because I hate it. I like the great things like Aliens and, you know, Star Wars and Star Trek. I appreciate what they've done for the genre, but I don't normally just check it out. But I thought this was very well done. So I started off nervous, but got more excited as it presented itself to me since we had a lot of time to spend with it.
Nice. I just realized I didn't give my thoughts so quickly. Of course, I loved it. I thought it was really epic, probably an epic Like, I don't think we've seen something quite like this since probably Lord of the Rings, honestly. Um, and I feel like people also compare it to Star Wars. I think this is most similar to probably Game of Thrones. There's a realism that Denis puts in this movie. Star Wars and Lord of the Rings are more fantasies, I would say. This is much more sci-fi. It feels very real. Nothing feels fantastical. It feels like he just time traveled to the year 10,190 and filmed there.
Have that right on your head.
Yeah. I don't think that's the exact day. I'm guessing, but I know it was in the 10,000.
10,191.
I missed the one. I was 1 year off. But yeah, I thought it was really good. Great performances, great visuals, everything, all that. So before we get into the actual plot of the movie, I just wanted to know who were the standouts among the characters in the cast for everyone. I'll go first. I think I expected Timothy to be good. He's obviously the lead, but as I find in a lot of movies recently, the lead is often not the standout. He still gave a really good performance. Paul was a really good character, but I would say that Jason Momoa, for one, really surprised me here. Most of these characters are going through a lot of like emotional, like heavy stuff, and he came in here like with his charisma and all that, so I think that really helped him stand out amongst other people who are like a little more emotional, but he was always very charismatic. And then of course Rebecca Ferguson, I think, is a huge standout here. This is the most I think she's been given as an actress to do, besides maybe Dr. Sleep, but I still think this is a little more, and she absolutely kills it with everything that she's given. She's a great character, and I'm interested to see her future as a character, because that last shot at the end made me a little weary. Oscar Isaac's always good. Stellan Skarsgård was a really interesting, cool villain. And yeah, also Sharon Duncan Brewster was really good as Dr. Liette Kynes. So let's go reverse order now. Constance, who are the standouts among the cast for you?
Well, I love going into a movie blind because I used to live in a world where you had to go in blind. I miss those days. So I went in. I did not know Jason Momoa was in this movie. So when he showed up, I was like, Jason Momoa is in this. And at first I thought, oh, well, he'll be okay. Oh, no. When we got to his big scene, well, we're talking spoilers. So his death scene, I was actually like, no. So he moved me. I was not expecting that. So big standout. Same thing. Excuse me. When Stellan Skarsgård showed, I didn't know he was. I was like, they got him in here, So I kept waiting for. I was like, who else is in here? I was confused by his character. So my stupid question was actually answered by a review. I won't name names. We all know who we're talking about, though. I was like, oh, for a minute there, I thought he was the emperor because they kept saying the emperor's doing this, and he was like in a containment thing. And it felt very Vader to me. I was like, oh, isn't this kind of like how Vader's in a contain? And I don't know what's going on with that thing going up and down his back.
Oh,
So
I think
was
it's
gross.
he's so obese that he can't walk.
Okay, so I thought he was the emperor because I thought this was like, an homage to that. But then I actually watched the reviews and I was like, oh, no, this is that rival gang that used to be in charge. A lot of names. That's my one big gripe is I'm like, who's who? I need a flow chart. So, but yeah, it was nice to see all these people. This is why it's fun to go in not knowing things, because then you actually are surprised and you have even more fun. So try to go in blind sometimes to things.
Yeah.
Just PSA. There you go.
Okay, and I think I'm starting to forget the order now. I think Antony, you're next.
Yeah, on the Stellan Skarsgård thing, every time he was on screen, I just had to keep reminding myself that this man was a Mamma Mia. Like, it just is so funny. There's a part of me that I was like, listen, I love you, Dave Bautista and David Dastmalchian, but if that was Pierce Brosnan and Colin Firth, I think it would have been A+. No, I'm but I would say Timothy Chalamet and Rebecca Ferguson were my favorite characters, and Jason Momoa. I think those three. I think Chalamet and Ferguson are, of course, given the most to do, and I think they're such wonderful actors. And I feel like a lot of people respect them, but I feel like they haven't really gotten into like the mainstream yet. I feel like this is their opportunity, and they know that, and they don't waste the opportunity to be in the spotlight. And so with that, it's kind of reminded me of the way that if you ever see a Broadway show, whenever you get an understudy, it's their one chance to do it, and you'll get a great performance because they really value the opportunity to be in the spotlight. And I got that vibe from them, which is why I think they are so wonderful here. And Jason Momoa, I think also, because I think he's been trying to not be stunt casting. I think he's trying to follow the Bautista route of he can just be in something like Blade Runner 2049 or Hotel Artemis, that really indie Jodie Foster film, and like blend. And I think he definitely blends here. And I think the other thing too, what makes them standouts is a lot of the characters don't get to really talk about themselves in terms of any like pathos way. So Momoa gets to stand out because he's given some comedic beats. The spit, the gift of your moisture, I thought was a great gag. He gets the like, you put on some muscle, really? No. Another great. So he's able to be the only one who's not in this dour tone the entire time. And again, Ferguson and Chalamet are the only characters that I think that really get to show real pathos when he yells at her by making her a freak. And Ferguson has some great face acting in that she's saying so much without saying anything. So I think because of that, those three stand beyond the rest of the cast. Oscar Isaac, I feel like, is great. He doesn't get a lot to do. I would have loved to see him more, and I was shocked that he died. I could not believe that they killed Oscar Isaac. And I know, this is a book. It's not like they chose to do that, but I was just like, I couldn't believe how many characters they killed in this movie, given how much time is setting everything up. Like it was like the first hour is setting everything up, and then the second hour is like killing half of that. I was like really surprised. But yeah, overall characters, I thought they were great. David Dastmalchian, I think, is becoming a really great character actor in these genre storytelling. He was great in Dark Knight and Ant-Man, and now the Suicide Squad this year, and this, I think he's proving to be a really great. I'm going to steal a term from one of my fellow friends who saw the film. This film has a lot of great action character actors who are very good here. Also, one last thing, Charlotte Rampling as I forget the name, but the lead of the Bene Gesserit. Mm-hmm. I thought her one and a half scenes were terrific. And it's a great example of using a very established actor it kind of reminded me of the way that, blanking on the name, Peter Cushing was in the original Star Wars. Bring in this established actor to ground the material and give the film and the scenes that they're in gravitas. So she was also very good. She's not in it that much, but what she is in was great.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. I also think Stephen McKinley Henderson is a great character actor. He was great as Stuffer, I believe is his name. Mm-hmm. Okay, next, Natalia. I wonder who you will say was your standout from the cast.
I'm not gonna go there first. I think her name was Reverend Mother Helen. I can't remember what her last name.
Mother, yeah.
Reverend Mother something like Helen something. But I'm not gonna go there first. We all know who. I am going to go with, as everyone has chosen, Jason Momoa, who was amazing. I didn't think that I would care for this man. Funnily enough, I was talking to my mother the other day, and she and my dad, they just started watching C, and I was like, oh, how's Jason Momoa? And she was like, he's good, but like he just plays a lot of like the same, just like buff and like punchy punch kind of people. Like I would like to see some range, put him in a rom-com. And she's right, that man needs to be in a rom-com.
Game of Thrones season 1.
Yeah, that's it.
His appearance on Graham Norton with Emilia Clarke is a great rom-com.
I love Graham Norton. Put that man in a rom-com. But yeah, he was a lot better than I thought he was going to be, because I thought he was just going to be the same kind of punchy punch. But he was very funny, and he did have a lot of heart. And I think the thing that really helped him with that was how quickly and how easily he's able to connect with the Fremen, and how he's able to very easily quite show that community that he's become, again, very quickly a part of. And I thought that was really good. And I think the line that Paul had was like, you really respect them. He was like, yeah, I think they're great, and they're like so connected, like the desert is their home and everything. Like that scene was so good because you get to really very quickly see so many things happening with that. You get to see Duncan's love and appreciation for the Fremen. You get to see the way that the Fremen themselves are so attuned with the world around them, with their own planet. And you get to see Paul's intrigue being more grounded, because before it was quite literally just in his dreams. Very good, Denny. We're so proud of you. Paul, I liked him a lot. I'm really interested to see where he's gonna go, because I know that he just ends up being like space Hitler, and I really want to see that happen. Jack, it's true.
I had a feeling. People say it subverts the hero trope, so I had a feeling.
Yeah.
He wasn't kidding.
But I'm really excited to see where that goes, and you can see little bits of that, especially in the tent scene. And that was so good. And you can really see how much in this movie alone, how much he's grown from being like a whiny little 15-year-old to still being 15, but like growing into both of the power of a duke and the I don't remember what the Bene Gesserit term for it is, but I remember the one on Arrakis is Lian al-Haib, something like that. But yeah, he was good. But of course, we got to get to my favorite, my woman, Rebecca Ferguson as Lady Jessica. She was magnificent. I am so proud of her. She's getting the praise that she absolutely deserves. And she's always been someone who does so much and so successfully with not a lot. But this time she's actually given something incredibly tangible and incredibly she just emotes so well. She's just standing there and she's just like shivering and holding her hands like this the entire time, but she's doing just everything. And I think the thing that she said a lot was like she found a lot of power in the stillness. And I was like, yep, yes, she did. But outside of those really quiet moments, I think one of my favorite scenes was with when she was captured and we finally get to see the use of the voice done so well with her. And I was like, this was, and then immediately after she was like scolding Paul. She was like, your pitch was off. It's just the back and forth of it was just so good. Okay, yes, I'm done now. I love it.
There it is. And then last but not least, we have Destiny. Who are the standouts for you?
So my standouts, they've already all been named, but I'll start with Rebecca Ferguson's Lady Jessica. Oh man, I loved her so much throughout the entire film. I just love Rebecca Ferguson and her acting. Like you said, she always does so much with so little, but this time she has so much to work with because her character is such a major character here. And I just loved, again, how she emotes, how she just looks at a person and you can just tell what she's thinking. Even at the end, the look on her face, I'm like, what is your plan for how you're going to go forward with this environment? I'm really curious. But another person I really loved was, I don't know how she's been named, but Sharon Duncan Brewster's character, Dr. Liette Kynes. I don't know, I was not expecting her character to be a major character that would influence things like she did. And I think she just commanded scenes that I did not expect from her. And I loved her. Honestly, I loved everyone. And then Jason Momoa, because again, I really thought he was going to come in, be like a joke character, but he was so great. I love the scene, like you said, Nat, where he's talking to Paul and he's saying how much he respects these, I'm not sure if
Fremen?
Freeman. It's weird. I want to say Freeman. So yeah, he's talking about how much he respects them. I thought it was a great scene. Even his death scene, even though I hated it, but even his death scene was so touching. I loved his whole relationship with Paul, the main character. And so that's my last standout as Timothy Chalamet's Paul. Maybe I'm just a Timothy stan or something, but I really liked him in this movie. And I actually was not sure about him at first. I think when what scene was it? I think it was a scene where he's being tested by the
Gum Jabbar.
Jesuit. Yes, he's being tested, and I think she uses the voice on him, and the way he looks at her and says, "How dare you use this on me?" And I'm like, I can kind of see why people want him to be Harry Osborn, but I just love that scene so much. I love that scene so much. I think that's when I started liking Paul. I liked even the scene where he captured the hunter's keeper, I think they called it, in his visions. And again, the scene where he yells at his mother, Jessica, for making him a freak. I'm like, man, Chalamet, you're doing really well here. I'm very surprised, even though I like your acting, but I'm surprised that you're doing so well in comparison to everyone around you, you know, because it's a great cast. But those are my top 4 standouts.
Awesome. So there's a lot of other stuff that we could talk about, but I think we'll touch on it all as we go through the movie beat by beat. So the opening is a little exposition-y. You know, we've got Zendaya talking about her planet Arrakis, some necessary exposition. Then we go to Timmy waking up on Caladan. I'm just going to merge all of the Caladan stuff together. So we have him waking up, talking to his mom for breakfast. Then the Empire people come, they sign the treaty to take over Arrakis. And then he sees his father on that plane thing with all of their dead ancestors. He trains with Gurney, and then they leave. So pretty much that whole section. What are our standouts
You
from
missed the
there?
Gom Jabbar.
Well, that's gonna have its own section.
Oh,
That's
smart
right
boy, smart
after
boy.
this. That's like probably my favorite scene in the whole movie. But yeah, that section right there, all the Caladan stuff. What sticks out to everyone?
Well, I have a question. Who here has read the book?
I don't think
Nobody?
anyone. No.
Not even you, Jack? Wow.
No, I
Oh,
wanted it
I
to be a
thought you
surprise.
read it.
Oh no, I wanted to, but I wanted the movie to be a surprise. So
Well, I know people don't like exposition, but as someone who did not know the source material at all, I really needed all that. And I don't think it was clunky.
no,
I think
it was
they did a
good.
very
Oh.
good, like as the breakfast scene was unfolding, I was like, what are we doing here? But as the movie progressed, I was like, oh, we needed that scene so that the voice doesn't just come out of the clear blue. That was very good. This is gonna be important later. It's gonna feel like filler, but it's not. You know, I thought they did a very good job with, again, I just lost track of names, but the overall idea was not lost on me. So I appreciate how they explained, this is where we are, this is who we are, this is the big conflict, you know.
Yeah. Anyone else? Any standouts from here? I thought it was a really cool planet, the water planet. I thought the VFX was cool there.
I
It
would.
was,
Destiny.
no, I'll go. But I think the scene that stood out to me the most from those first maybe even just 20 minutes was when they're eating breakfast and they establish the voice, because again, well, I think most you guys saw it in IMAX, right? I think all of you. Okay, yeah.
I don't have IMAX near me.
Oh man.
Oh yeah, no, I don't either.
Oh,
I saw it in the. I wish the closest IMAX is an hour and a half away. So.
Oh man.
Oh,
bad.
But because IMAX is really good. I saw it in Dolby though, which I always consider better than IMAX. Even when they say, "Oh, this movie was filmed in IMAX," I still see it in Dolby because it still looks amazing, and the sound is very, like your seat vibrates, like you feel it through your whole body. So the scene where they were establishing what the voice was, and there was just a long pause because the first time Paul tries to do the voice, doesn't get it right. And then there's just a long pause and it zooms in on him. And then suddenly, like, you hear this booming sound as he tries to do the voice. And then it still didn't work. I'm like, what is this voice that didn't work? But so I think that scene stood out to me the most because I really wanted to learn more about his powers and his mother's powers and everything.
Yeah.
I would say that this section probably maybe has my favorite scene of the film, and that's the Oscar Isaac, Timothy Chalamet dialogue. And I think it has the best line in the film, which is the one, it was in the trailers, but the one it's like, you know, a great leader doesn't volunteer to leave, he's called to it, but if your answer is no, then you'll still be exactly who I need you to be, my son. I thought that was a beautiful, touching moment, and especially what happens with his father, and I will get into it, but I think the focus on the ring, I think was a really subtle note throughout that Villeneuve goes to represent their relationship. And I think that scene kind of sets up, see, that's a relationship that I feel like I feel like they did set up very well. And I think that scene, by allowing the two of them to really share how they feel about each other, especially in between two male characters and it being a father-son relationship, I feel like a lot of times you won't get that. And if you do, it's in Return of the Jedi at the end when the father is about to die. So to see that at the outset, I thought I found very refreshing, and I thought both actors did a tremendous job. So I would say, as far as the opening Caladan sequence, that scene it may be my favorite in the whole film. I really thought Oscar Isaac understood the assignment.
He always does.
Always does.
I think all of these scenes are, since the movie's about Paul, I think they're all important in establishing his relationships with everyone. Like the breakfast scene for his relationship with his mom. He gets to say goodbye to what's his name, Duncan Idaho, as he leaves. So that establishes their relationship. He trains with Gurney. He has that scene with his dad. So I think it's good in establishing the relationship of the whole Atreides family before they get into all of the Arrakis stuff. So any other thoughts on this whole section?
I agree with Antony that the Oscar Isaac Timothy Chalamet scene is that's my favorite out of all of the Caladan scenes. Yes, most definitely does not have Rebecca, but like that was the atmosphere of everything, the conversation leading up to it, and the question of legacy, and while in front of so many dead people, and the tomb of your grandfather who died in sport fighting bull, like amazing. I love it. It was so good. I love that scene so much.
Yeah, I loved his line is almost Timmy's, like that Tashi Station line for him when he's like, "But Grandpa fought bulls."
And he was like, "Yeah, look where that got him."
Yeah.
Ugh, love it.
Yeah.
I just want to say also that I feel I described the film in my Twitter review as dense, but I don't mean that negatively. I feel like even more than Lord of the Rings, this has such a Herculean task in adapting so much material. And the fact that they're able to do it in any way that's like Constance, it's a lot of exposition, but I understood most of it, I think, is a testament to how the opening introduces you to the world of Dune. Like it doesn't feel like they're just cramming it. Like it doesn't feel like a history lesson, and they find different ways to get the exposition to you.
Ooh, the books that he's reading.
Yeah, the live books was very creative. I think which characters introduce what things. I love, as somebody who's always watches training scenes, and I'm like, how do you not go so far to kill the person? Like, how are you that in control when you're training? The shields, I thought, were a brilliant thing. And how they were utilized was great. So I do think the opening, I would say the first half is really strong, and I think sets up the world of Dune incredibly well, and how distinct it is. This doesn't feel like, it feels like in terms of scope, like Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, Marvel, Star Wars, the like, but it has its own distinct feel. And I think that's a tribute to how the movie begins this journey.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely the opening is important in establishing a lot of stuff like the shields and all the relationships and such. But the next scene, I think it's a smaller scene, but it's so good that it deserves, I think, its own section here. The Gom Jabbar scene. It's the scene where the Reverend Mother arrives, her and the Bene Gesserit in their cool ship while it's raining. And she tests Paul because, that's what they have to do, because he's a male. They didn't want him to be a male. They wanted a female, and he has a lot of power, and they had to test him. I thought Denis Villeneuve did a video breaking down this scene, which I would suggest.
I was going to talk about that too. Yep.
I would suggest checking that out. It's really good, and you can tell just in the way he breaks it down how even the tiniest of things he has intention behind, like even something like how he wants Timmy to put his hand in the box. Like, it's just such small little things, and he has like thought of every tiny detail. And I thought the Bene Gesserit in general are just such a what probably the coolest group of people in general, I would say, in this movie. And yeah, I thought Charlotte Rampling did a really good job as the Reverend Mother. And yeah, it's a really intense scene, and I the acting from everyone was good. So what did everyone think of this scene?
I loved it.
Yeah.
It was one of my, I already mentioned it a little bit, but it was one of my, I think that's when I started loving Timothy as Paul. But I think it was just a very intense scene in general, especially because you have Lady Jessica outside of the room, obviously in emotional turmoil, and where I'm wondering, okay, what is happening? Is she? Because I knew from the trailer there was going to be this type of scene, but I was wondering what is going to be. Is he going to die? What is the catalyst? Why is she reacting? Well, she's his mother, of course, but what is going on? And then even when the way I didn't even watch that breakdown. I meant to watch it, but
That's
even
good.
the way that he was having kind of not necessarily a vision, but you saw his hand burning. So I guess that's what he's feeling. And then man, I love this scene so much because it's so intense. Honestly, a lot of the scenes I like in this movie are very intense, and I was just riveted. I barely ate my nachos, so I liked it.
You're a nachos person.
Yes, I'm a nachos person.
Sorry, I didn't know what kind of movie snack person you are.
Yeah, nachos. We'll sometimes get popcorn, but mostly nachos.
Natalia keeps track of everybody's eating habits.
Yeah.
Anything else regarding the Gom Jabbar? I thought the score, as I mentioned earlier, that's probably my favorite
score
track.
was so good. As I told you all, but we weren't recording. I was listening to it before coming in, and it's so good, and it melds. So we're not talking about the score, but like I'm just gonna say this right now.
Yeah.
The way everything just melds into each other, it's just amazing. But for the Gom Jabbar scene, 10 out of 10 would recommend. This scene is so good. Charlotte Rampling is an absolute queen. Again, with the video that Jack and I watched, she was meant to have her veil off sometime, but the way that again, it made a lot of sense that she kept it on the whole time.
So intimidating.
So intimidating. She's also like so stupid tall, and the shoes help and everything. It was and the giant hat. Oh, yeah. She's just so frightening. I love it. But Timmy was really good in that scene, and you could see how like he was scared shitless, but then as he kept having those little like sparks of visions and everything, he was getting back all of the power from the Reverend Mother, and it was just so good. And of course, I have to talk about my lady. 2 parts about her. Before she leaves, she's like about to hug Timmy, and she's like, you got to do whatever the Reverend Mother tells you, but she's like about to hug her, but then she realizes, oh no, I got to remember my training too, and she like has no emotion, like an absolute detachment, and that was just, you could see her hesitating so much. That was so good. And of course, when she's sobbing and saying the I must not fear monologue, and it just cutting back and forth between literally everyone. You could see the fear in the Reverend Mother's eyes from the visions that Timothy is having, and you can see the fear, and you can hear the fear of Lady Jessica as she's saying this monologue, and probably thinking that her son's dead in the other room. And it's just like, it's so good. It's so good. Please watch it.
I think the way they enter in the rain was such a great, which also, it's taken us way too long to say 2 words. Greg Fraser, the cinematographer.
Yes. Sorry, Greg.
Insanely talented. He shot, I think his biggest cinematography credit before this was Rogue One, which was one of the best looking Star Wars movies. Incredible work here. I think my favorite shot of the film is when Timothy is sleeping and the rain reflection is dancing off his face. I love rain and snow in movies anytime they're used. It's why the Force Awakens lightsaber fight is my favorite of all of them. So I loved anytime there was rain in this movie, especially because most of it is a desert. I was like, give me water.
Yes.
But yeah, the cinematography was great. And I want to say on Natalia's point with the score and the melding and the layers, this is one of the best sound design films I can remember seeing. It is so impressive how they layer everything and what they do. Something like this scene with really feeling the intensity of the voice or his hand. The sound design is off the charts in this film.
It's incredible, yeah. The score in general, if anyone else, I think we can stop and talk about it right now. If anyone else has anything else they want to say, I think this is one of Hans Zimmer's best scores. Of course, he's an incredible composer. He only has one Oscar for some reason. I think he'll get one for this
The
one.
Lion King of all things.
Lion King.
Wow.
It's a good score, but he's done so much great things since
I
then.
think the second one's on its way.
Yeah. But yeah, in general, I think I've listened to the score multiple times. Every track is amazing. Sometimes in scores, there's like a few where it's like, okay, I can skip that one. But everything in this one is really good. Standout would probably be Gom Jabbar. And I really like the Dreams of Arrakis track as well. But anything else from anyone on the score?
Yes, I am currently taking a music and film class, and we're probably going to talk about Hans Zimmer maybe this week or next week. But I was watching this movie and I was paying attention to the sound, which is a thing that I never do, but I am doing more because of this class. So thank you, Dr. Jones. But I know we're not on Arrakis yet, but we will be. But I really got to talk about this. With the sound when he's the spice harvester and he's going and the storm is about to hit, and right when it hits him, everything cuts out. Like, it was so good. It was so good. I can't praise the sound enough. It was so intense, and it really helped to bring out the scale of this world too. And it was just and the way that the leitmotif of the that was everywhere, and like it was in just so many different forms. It was just so good. It was yes.
Very good. Very good. And also when the Bene Gesserit leave in their weird ship, I thought the score there was really cool. So yeah. Anyone else have anything to say about the score?
I would just say I love it, but I don't have. I immediately listened to the score on my drive home. It was the best thing ever. I turned it all the way up in my car. But yeah, I love it.
You must have gotten all the bongs.
Very powerful score.
Very powerful.
It enhances the movie a lot. But now we are arriving on Arrakis. Lots of stuff happens here. It's really just about introducing the whole world of Arrakis. They get there, people are chanting. I forget what the word is.
Lian al-Habib?
Yes.
Something like that.
Sure. At Paul and Jessica as they walk around. They fly into the city and they get a better idea of like the city landscape. They have these cool like dragonfly ships, which I love. Jessica picks out her handmaiden watering trees, and then we'll end it off with the hunter seeker that tries to attack Timmy, but he is so still that it doesn't detect him. So what do we want to talk about here? Whoever wants to go.
Well, I have a nitpick.
Okay,
when they arrive.
go ahead.
Love it.
Dun, dun, dun.
So when they arrive and they're walking and everyone's like, like, oh, our new leaders are here or whatever. That costume that Jessica Ferguson's wearing with it's like
Jessica Ferguson.
fabric. Jessica. I'm sorry, I just got a tweet and I'm reading.
You combine them.
Yeah.
So all that fabric is billowing. I was like, this is a very impractical garment.
So impractical.
Why? It's beautiful.
It's stunning.
I like how it looks, but I was like, this is so. Why are you wearing this? So
And
that bothered me
doesn't
for
get
a
her
minute.
eyes.
Mhm.
She has the chainmail and she has the veil. She's so covered.
Yeah.
Not a speck of sand is getting on that woman.
I don't know if they felt like, oh, we're gonna have wind and it's gonna be billowing and it's gonna be majestic, but it bothered me, so I didn't.
She wanted to make a good first impression.
Mm-hmm.
Show her
She
stuff.
wanted to really meld into that background of all of that orange.
Yeah.
She saw Kim Kardashian cover herself at the Met Gala.
She said, I want that.
let me see.
Yes. I think my favorite part was the scene with Shout Out Mapes.
Yes.
That was good because you again, I don't know if you've noticed from how I'm reviewing this, but you get a lot from different points of the movie, of the story. So we get the religious aspect of, I think the word that Shout Out Mapes used was, when you live with prophecy for so long, it oh God, I can't remember it, but I see the scene. But I thought that scene was really good because you can see the two worlds finally coming together, with Lady Jessica and all of the power that the Bene Gesserit have, but also as as a former, what do I call her? When she was from Caladan, she's still a concubine, but like concubine of Leto from Caladan. And the newness and the I don't want to say like, and the devotion of the people for Lian al-Hadib, that was just really powerful. And the way that the guard was like ready to either, I think the guard was with Shout Out
Rebecca.
Mapes, right? The
No,
guard
that
was with Rebecca.
Yeah,
The guard was with Rebecca, but like
she was
Shout Out
hand-sitting.
Mapes was signing like, be prepared for
I
violence.
thought Rebecca was.
No, that was Shout Out Mapes.
Oh,
No,
So
I thought it was
Rebecca.
Rebecca.
it was.
I don't think
Rebecca was the one signing like stand back.
Be
because
prepared
she was
for
about to,
violence.
like,
I'm gonna.
protect her.
I have this ready. Let's figure it out.
Because she had a knife. Shadow Mapes
She
had
had
a
a
knife.
knife.
I don't think anybody else signed except for Rebecca and Timmy.
I don't think so.
I think it was one of their things. I'm potentially, maybe that's a Bene Gesserit thing, and that's why the two of them do it. Because like Oscar Isaac never signs, and I would feel like if it was this sort of like House Atreides thing, then he would do it eventually at some point. At least I feel like Villeneuve would have made that point of doing it.
Oh,
It seems a
Mhm.
Rebecca thing, or
Yes,
Jessica
I'm
Ferguson.
We're all gonna find out together.
Well, we'll see. No, leaving technology up to you, Natalia.
I'm not gonna show you. I'm just gonna tell you.
I thought that was a very intense scene, though. It was a
Uh,
good scene.
out of this section, I think the Javier Bardem scene was probably my favorite.
Oh, that was
yes,
good too.
yes.
Oh, I love your
And I loved, I both times, but especially my Friday night I went, the first time I saw it, when he says, "I recognize you" to Paul, which I'm interested to know how he recognized him from the visions. Like that, I'm really interested
It
in.
is Shout Out Mapes.
But I thought that moment, everybody was like, "Ooh!" Like it's such like it's. I feel like in a movie that has a lot of plotting and like exposition to get through, moments like that of intrigue and suspense that kind of like just like they give you a little taste of something. Instead of just,
I was wrong. I think the thing that really threw me off was we would do a reverse shot to the hand, but it was on the same side as Shout Out Mapes.
Yes.
there you go.
Was Rebecca.
It was Rebecca. Never mind.
Rebecca. But
Yeah, I love that.
Javier
Javier.
Bardem was great. I love that scene. And again, the spit gag was probably it was, and I don't need it. We didn't need jokes in this movie, but I do think moments of levity like this were great and very well used, especially when Oscar Isaac then does it. And I think Stephen McKinley Henderson does too. I'm pretty sure. So that was a nice beat. So that scene out of this Arrakis
Invasion.
invasion was probably my favorite.
Yeah, I like how spitting is a sign of like respect for them because they need so much water that even just like letting a little bit go is like respect.
The way he just walked in that room with
Ah.
so much, like I was
Blue
like,
eyes.
The
too.
suave.
I mean,
The
he's
sweater.
He's great. He may be my favorite Bond villain in Skyfall. So I've always loved him, and I think he's great to add to these blockbuster films because, like Charlotte Rampling, he brings a lot of gravitas, and he's a character I'm very much looking forward to exploring more in Dune Part 2, or Tune, as it might be called.
I think he'll have a much bigger role in that.
He is one of the few Spaniards that I enjoy, so that's big for me.
I mean, unless he dies in the first 10 minutes, which, I mean, Dune,
Oh, God.
apparently that's going to happen. Everybody can
Certainly
die.
It's a thing.
Yeah, it's not the same level as Game of Thrones, but I feel like it gets close. Like, anybody can die except Rebecca Ferguson. God willing.
Except Rebecca Ferguson.
Maybe, who knows?
Who knows?
Then before we get into the invasion, just quickly, we can talk about the spice mining scene with the whole worm incident. I thought this was really the first action scene per se of the movie, besides the training, I guess. I thought this was really, really cool, especially on the big screen, like the way the sand, like with so many scenes in this movie, it's about the tension, and it's like given specifically like a time limit, like, oh, it's going to arrive in like 5 minutes, and then 4 minutes, and 3 minutes. And yeah, I thought it was a really well done scene. And we don't get to see the worm just yet, but I like how he held that back until the very end. You can tell it's a huge, big threat. So any thoughts here? What do we think of this scene?
This was the scene where I really started to love the movie because I guess I just love tension, but I love this entire scene from where they were exploring the desert to all the way when Paul has another vision, because even before they realize that, the worm is close, or when you're on the ship and the ship broke or something, I just could feel, you can feel that something's going to happen, even the way you're listening to the radio. Oh, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, they're counting down. Maybe I should have a breakdown of this scene too. I want a breakdown of everything because I loved how it started, and then you get the ship. It's like, oh no, it'll be okay. 2 minutes is not, the worm is really far away. It won't be bad. But then it breaks. And that also is the ship breaking is also something they mentioned before when they're thinking they're being sabotaged, which they clearly are. But and then I love the determination to save everyone on the crawler. And I love how, love everything. I love how Paul, he is still exploring the area, even though it's so dumb. But you have that moment of silence and you see the spice in the air. I love that too. Oh my gosh, I love seeing the spice. Every time I saw the spice, whether it was in his hand or in the air with little spectacles, I loved it so much. And after Paul has his vision and he's kneeling on the ground, he says, I can recognize your footsteps, old man. And then you see his what's
Gurney?
His name?
Gurney.
Yeah,
Gurney.
You see his hand on the shoulder, and I don't know why I jumped in my seat because I just caught on to what he said, and all of a sudden he's there. I love
because they cut the shot in between of him actually going up. It was just boom.
Right. I love the entire way everything in the scene was shot from beginning to end. It was so fantastic to me. And that's why I started to love the movie.
Yeah. It's incredibly well edited, the whole movie.
Yeah, this sequence, Villeneuve, I feel like you could see influences of Hitchcock here, of Spielberg with Jaws, and a lot of his other more suspenseful works. Like, he builds up, even this is just a sequence, I know we don't get a full look at it, but he builds up that sandworm so well. And like, the way that the thing explodes, and it's like, well, we can only fit 6 and we're going to try our best to get all 21. Like, it was really well done. And then we get the vision. This is where we get the vision of Timmy in the suit fighting, right? Am I wrong?
I think that's the first time we see it.
Maybe.
I think we see it a few times, but I think
he has a vision.
Do you want me to check?
Later.
I know he has a vision, I believe. I mean, that's why
he does.
Yeah.
He does, yeah.
Again, I just thought there were so many moving parts here, but again, it feels, you're right. I think it was Jack. This is like the first big action thing. And the fact that it shows great control, that Villeneuve doesn't feel the need to put in like contrived action things to keep it going. Like, he trusts his pace. But then he knows how to use this sequence well. And again, this movie kind of feels like it's funny because, it's a two-parter, but this film itself feels like it's in 2 halves, setup and payoff. And here is where it's like literally like you are on, the movie never lets up after this moment. And he just has, again, the control, the energy, the suspense, it's all here. And there are stakes, which I think were really well done. And Oscar Isaac, I think, really showed how good, when he then dies, I really felt that we were, his presence will be lost because he shows here how good of a strategical leader he is and that he cares about his people. And that's more important than the spice. after we just set up that the spice was the only reason he's there. So I love the scene. This is probably maybe my second favorite sequence scene after the Oscar Isaac, Timothée Chalamet conversation at the beginning. I think Oscar Isaac is in more of these scenes than I thought. So maybe he is one of my favorite people. So yeah, love this scene.
Yeah, really good scene. Anything else, or shall we get into the invasion?
Let's do it. The invasion.
Okay, so I don't know how much I really need to recap here, but pretty much Dr. Yue, I believe, is his name. He betrays the Atreides, and the Harkonnens are able to attack. He, I believe, cripples or incapacitates Duke Leto. All of the Harkonnens are invading, killing people. Gurney is fighting down by the ships. Timmy and Rebecca get kidnapped. But yeah, it's a longer scene, but it's pretty much the whole invasion part. What do we think of that?
It's hard to break down this scene because, man, everything happens so quickly. I guess for me the notable scenes was when Paul and Lady Jessica were kidnapped, and they finally used the voice to its full capacity in the ship. And then I really loved when Duncan got away, also because I was just hoping he wouldn't die, even though he dies later. But when he got away and he flew the ship and he was avoiding the laser. Again, I barely ate my nachos. This is too tense. I think I actually had a chip in my hand. I was about to eat it. But I'm like, oh my God, Duncan, you have to make it out of here. But, and then when Oscar Isaac, because I thought he was gonna make it out of there. I don't know why I thought that. I don't know why I have.
It's because he's Oscar Isaac,
right?
Well,
I don't.
Yeah. The last time we thought he died in a big movie like this, he comes back in The Force Awakens, and it's like, no, come back, Oscar Isaac.
And then Palpatine somehow returned.
Maybe that'll be the beginning of
Duke Leto has returned.
Somehow Duke Leto Atreides has returned.
No,
that'd be great if he was the person.
Oh my God, can you imagine
that line? That
would be funny.
Oh no.
He should just say it himself as Duke Leto when he walks on screen.
He walks in and speaks in the third person. Somehow Duke Leto has returned.
Somehow, somewhere.
Yeah. I think I barely ate my nachos should be the tagline review for this movie.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
What was your tagline
Destiny.
for What If? That was so good.
What?
I don't watch What If.
There was a tagline from our What If review that Destiny gave that was just as good.
I forgot. Oh, it's because I worked out during Dr. Strange.
Oh, it made me stop my workout.
Yeah.
It made me put down my nachos. We gotta keep a list.
Honestly, I need to stop trying to. I guess I didn't realize how tense this movie was going to be. I shouldn't have gotten. Maybe I should have gotten candy. Not a whole thing. They give you a lot of nachos, by the way. If you are a nacho person, I don't know. But.
Yeah. What do you think?
Two things. One, we found out from pictures that there was a scene cut between Dr. Yue and Lady Jessica about when Dr. Yue is talking about his wife. So like that shouldn't have been cut, because then all of a sudden when we see him, and the man needed more scenes anyway, all of a sudden when we see him again, when he incapacitates Duke Leto, he was like, I'm doing this for my wife, Juana. And I was like, that's new information. It's like,
I feel like he explains himself well enough in the scene.
He does, but I feel like,
I
feel like we should have gotten some more of him. Because the only other time that we see him, it was like when he's
preparing Timmy
the
gum
for the gum jar, and then when he's like also checking out Timmy after the spice harvesting scene.
Yes.
It's apparently sensitive.
On that note, I feel, because I think the sequence is very well done, but there was a part of me that I was like,
something's missing.
I just felt like this could have been set up, I think, more efficiently, because I felt that I still don't know after two viewings, why was House Atreides targeted? Why was the Emperor not like House Atreides? And I feel like, I don't know if they're trying to do a similar thing that the original Star Wars trilogy did, which is we're mentioning the Emperor, but we're not going to show the Emperor, or like a Snowpiercer type thing where we're going to mention the guy at the end of the train, but we're not going to tell you who he is. But to me, then I'm like, well, I'm watching all these characters that you just spent the first hour and probably 15 minutes, hour and a half setting up, and then you're going to kill everything. You're going to kill, like, this location is now basically killed. And I'm like, that's all fine, but I would have liked to have known why, because again, Oscar Isaac seemed like a good leader. He was there, what, a day? Did the, like, maybe?
Yeah, I was like, they were 2 days into it.
Like, it was not like he was bad at collecting spice, and that's why this happened. It was obviously a targeted thing, especially with the Bene Gesserit. So I was like, I wished I knew more of why he wasn't like maybe it was a Hank Pym and Ant-Man type of situation where he just pissed a lot of people over, even though he seems warm and nice to his own people. Again, that was something I feel was lacking from the film. And when I watched the sequence, it did feel like we were playing catch up. And I was like, wait a second, Dave Bautista's here. Everybody, wait, what? And it just may be that, this was one of the scenes like that got cut, and that they just, for theatrical release, they had to cut something. If there's a Dune extended edition, maybe this will be a sizable chunk. I would totally be for it, in the same way that the Lord of the Rings extended editions enhance the theatrical cut. But as it is now, great sequence, but I was missing a little bit of the setup.
I think there's a scene where the Baron says the Atreides' voice is rising. I think he sees them as a threat, clearly, potentially to like take his place or challenge him for the throne. So he's sided with the Harkonnens because they're more loyal, probably, to him. He takes them out of Arrakis so he can put the Atreides in an environment where they're more vulnerable, and then attack them and pretty much get rid of the family.
But the fact is that it's the Harkonnens have an alliance with the Emperor, correct? The Baron is the Vader to the Emperor's Emperor.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was, I wish maybe there had been a clear, maybe you do a scene like Empire where you see Vader talking to the Emperor, and it's like this, they mention him and they show glimpses, but you don't really get a sense of him. Just so I get more of a sense of the connection between them, because again, you're killing Oscar Isaac, you're killing maybe Josh Brolin, but you're killing basically all of House Atreides except for two people. I wish I just knew a little bit more of why that was happening, rather than just, I don't like you. For something so dense and so in depth, that fell a little thin to me, which is why it stood out to me more, because Dune as a whole was so in depth and so in detail.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes even little things, though, can cause such tragedies. Like the Red Wedding in Game of Thrones was because this guy didn't want to marry any of this woman's children. It wasn't some huge war or anything.
True, but maybe the pacing of a television show that allowed them to breathe more.
That's true.
That it is interesting to think. I know a lot of people were saying, what if Dune was a television show? And I'm, listen, it looked amazing on screen, but Game of Thrones was a major show that I think still was as cinematic as television could be. The story is the story. So listen, if they do release an extended edition to HBO Max, I'll take it, because I think that's what I loved about this. I want more. I'm interested in this world. I think what Villeneuve creates is really impressive, and I want more.
No, that's not your expression. What do you say, Antony?
Keep going.
Yes.
There you go. Keep on going.
I like that point of view, because that's not how I took it. Usually when an action scene starts, I start to tune out going, oh, here's your gratuitous action scene. But I like that they were caught off guard, and, Josh Brolin's characters are like, quick, get to the guns. And they were clearly losing. I was like, oh, they're not going to just rally and it's going to work out. So I thought they were subverting expectations by being like, oh, we're going to show you how badly they lose. So that's part of the whole, this is so refreshing. I'm like, they didn't do the tired old, they found that one ship with the really big gun and they took care of it, So maybe I was too busy looking at that. But as you've been talking, I was like, yeah, you're right. Maybe that's why I got confused about who was whom.
Maybe Constance, you bring something interesting up, and I do think the caught off guard angle of this is really interesting. Maybe not show the Baron until this scene when he and Oscar Isaac are talking. Maybe you hear murmurs like House Harkonnen is upset that they've been taken off of the planet. like, and then maybe this is where you explore him. Because again, I feel like if you're gonna introduce him before the attack, then I felt like I needed then more motivation for him. But if you want to go with the caught off guard thing, which I think definitely is here, then I would have held back on introducing him until now. Because, I mean, what, it was like 2 minutes of screen time before this? I feel like you could have done something similarly to what you did earlier if you introduced him here after the attack.
There was also a scene with the Baron and David Dastmalchian and the Reverend Mother
Yeah.
where they were talking
Right.
about
The cone of
Spider
silence.
dog.
yeah, the spider dog. Someone was like, why was that there? A, Denis Villeneuve hates spiders. B, someone said that could have been the wife
Yeah.
of Juana, and I was like,
yeah.
that's good. But yeah.
Good theory, yeah.
Yeah. Wait, can I actually like talk about my second favorite scene from the invasion?
Go ahead.
Which was, I think, also Destiny's favorite scene, which was when Paul and Jessica were kidnapped. And then, you see, I know you. Paul and Jessica were kidnapped, and I did talk about this earlier when she uses the voice. That scene was so good because, like, you can see the mother-son relationship right there, even when they can't speak, even when she can't speak, and they're signing and everything. But like, Jessica was like, "Don't fucking do it. It's not gonna work out. Don't do it. It's not gonna work out." And he was like, "I'm gonna do it," because he's a little 15-year-old shit. He's a terrible kid. He's a really irritating kid. But that's the point of the character. But that scene was probably my favorite because you can see how much he's trying and failing. And then when it finally works is when his life is on the line. And then, boom, Jessica shows up and she does the voice in all of its glory. And it was great. But it was so short. And I want more of when she uses the voice. But yeah, that was really good.
Hopefully in part 2.
Hopefully
I like how
part 2.
confused the guys looked too after they like killed their friend. They were like, "What did I just do?"
"Ooh." Yeah.
The burning palm trees too were a great visual here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I was so sad since earlier they talked about how they're sacred and stuff. So when I saw that, I was like, no, not the trees.
Not the palm trees.
I
The,
like
the
that.
people, the Josh Brolin's army is fine, but the trees.
The trees.
But I like that earlier scene when Paul was talking to, who was he? Was it just the ground?
It was just a guy.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So it was just the person
Hagrid.
taking
He was
care of the
talking to Hagrid.
trees, and he was explaining how much water they need. And it was so funny because when he explained that they each need like amount of water to 5 men or something, even in my head, I'm like, okay, that's a waste of water. And then suddenly Paul's like, why would you use that water? I don't know why. Sometimes Paul is struggling, but sometimes I agree with how he thinks in the situation, like how he feels about Arrakis. And then I don't know why I like that small moment of him questioning, should we be using this just for how it looks?
Yeah, that is a good moment.
Yeah.
Makes you realize just how the sacred water is on this planet. Okay, so after the invasion, let's see. Pretty much Lady Jessica and Paul escape the ship. Duke Leto dies. He uses his poison tooth and kills everyone in the room besides the Baron. Then Lady Jessica and Paul meet up with what's her
You
name?
missed the tent scene. The tent scene was
tent
one of the
scene.
best parts.
The tent scene, that's true. I'm trying to remember the tent scene. And Paul and Jessica meet up with Duncan and Dr. Liette Kynes. And then the Harkonnen invade and Duncan dies.
Wait, they weren't Harkonnen. They
Or
were
the
was,
something.
Sardaukar army,
Yeah,
Sardaukar,
something
yeah.
like that.
but they were
Sardaukar.
under the
They
banner
were,
of the
yes.
ship.
Yeah.
Yes. For this,
Wasn't
yes.
for, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah. So what do we think there? Obviously the tent scene, like you
The
said.
tent scene,
That was a really good
That was-
acting moment.
really good. And you get to finally have Paul like actually use the voice. Because
Yeah.
before it was just like, do the voice, gotta practice. And then it was like when his life was on the line and work. But like this one, it was like legitimate. It was like, I can do this now.
Mhm.
But then he was screaming at his mother, and that's mean. Don't scream at your parents. Um,
I was
He's had a rough day.
he's had a really bad day.
His dad died.
His dad died. Yeah. And now he's a duke. That scene was really good. Everyone, by everyone, I mean quite literally just Rebecca and Timmy, they brought their A game to that. That was all the emotion, all the tears. The Timmy drooled a little bit. That was kind of unsettling. Didn't appreciate that at all. But the visions in that were really good. I think that was when it was when he sees into the future and he sees himself fighting.
Yeah, I think it's here.
And that was good. And he was like, the world is engulfed in a never-ending war, and it'll be something fire forever, yada yada. That was good. He just was crazed for a little bit. You could just see the power that this kid doesn't understand that he really has just yet, but you can see glimpses of that in the vision and how he's reacting to it in that time.
Mm-hmm. I thought the Duke's death was a cool scene too. I thought he went out like a hero, even though I thought he killed the Baron, but sadly he didn't.
Yeah,
That sucks.
because his shield is on his ring.
Yeah, I don't know. The shield protected you from poison.
Yeah,
But-
because
Did a
when
little
the
bit.
poison was emitted into the air, the shield still turned red, so it
Yeah,
still hurt
yeah.
him,
It
I
didn't
guess.
breach it completely. He
Yeah.
just was sicky poo for a little bit.
Yeah.
Then when they found him hanging on the ceiling too.
Oh, that was
Oh,
disgusting.
Yeah.
It freaked me out so much.
It's like when you suddenly look up and you see a spider. You're like, ah,
Yeah.
Literally.
that
Oh,
scared me.
gross.
That was so good.
Creepy.
And like how
Yeah.
everyone, the two people that were like goth versions of the guys from Monsters Inc.
Yes.
No.
And they were like, "What the hell is that?"
Yeah.
It was great. I love
The
it.
Baron needed a life alert. I've fallen and I can't get
Can't
up.
get up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really love the intercutting between the Duke igniting the poison and Paul finding the ring,
Yeah.
knowing what happened to his father and the fate of his father. I thought that was really well done. And again, the tense scene, I felt bad because I was going to say, this is what happens when you get Oscar nominees in your movie, but I reminded her, Rebecca Ferguson is not yet.
Rebecca has nothing.
Not
She has a Golden Globe nomination for The White Queen, and that's it.
So I think what's really great is that I feel like her and Catherine Hahn are two actors who I feel like have been working, but really blew up in terms of popularity and success later in their career. I mean, they're not later in their career, but as far as Hollywood goes, they're above 40, which means they're later in their career.
No, Rebecca's 37, I think.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, that's right. I saw that she was actually one of the few times that like an actress
Accurate.
was asked at the
Yeah.
Anyway, she's around that time. She's obviously not an ingenue, and the fact that she's getting this acclaim, I think, is great for her. But I'm hopeful that one day she will get nominated. Hell, maybe for this she will. Who knows? Let's see how much the Academy loves this movie. But the 10 scene was great, and then I loved when Duncan Idaho finds them and says, "My Duke," and he gets on one knee, and you can see Paul. I think Paul looks at Rebecca Ferguson, looks at Jessica, and like it really hits him that it's kind of like the opposite of what Oscar Isaac said at the beginning because he's been forced into this. But I think what the rest of the movie is about is him actually accepting the call, kind of like a Sam is given the shield, but then takes time to actually feel that he's earned it type of situation, which is why I think the ending is.
Marble Boy.
That's why the ending keeps like that. Not when the movie ends, it keeps going because he has to still accept the call, which I think he does, and I feel like most people probably think he does by the end of the movie.
Yeah. I feel like that's when the audience kind of first realized it too. Like that's when I realized like after all the chaos, you kind of forget about it, and then you're like, oh wait, he's the leader of this family now.
Check out.
Completely forgot about that. I also thought it was sad that Duke Leto died thinking that his entire family was dead, but at least he went out like a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So sad.
Yes. Now Duncan's death, pretty much. Duncan, he fights protecting Paul and Jessica. The doctor gives them a ship and she escapes, and she also dies summoning the sandworm.
Unnecessary. She
I
did
feel
not
like-
need to die.
Mrs. Blonde reviewer lady kind of ruined a little bit of this for me because she was like, in the end, all the people of color sacrificed themselves for Timmy. And I'm like, oh,
She
well,
said
that's a
that
person
Did she
of
say
color.
in the
that?
They're
non-spoiler
probably going to die.
review.
Yeah, she did.
Oh my
And I was like, oh,
god.
so that's a person of color. They're probably going to die. Oh, that's a person of color. They're probably, and she was right. But I feel like I knew who was going to die, which stinks. But what did you
I
guys
didn't
think of
think that
these
she was
two
gonna
big
die.
deaths?
I really didn't. I didn't think she needed to die.
Oh,
I wanted her to ride a sandworm.
Yeah, she would have deserved it
right?
instead
I
of
mean,
random Fremen guy.
the way she went, I like the way she went out, even though where she was pounding the sand and everything. But when I realized that she was stabbed, I had thought, I'm like,
Yeah.
how do you not hear?
In the middle of nowhere.
This is your land. How do you not hear people?
You're literally a
approaching you?
Fremen.
You know the environment. You know the environment. Oh my god, I was so mad because I loved her so much. And even though I kind of knew, I mean, at that point I wasn't sure if everything in Paul's visions come true all the time or they just are forewarnings and they can be preventable. So I was still hoping that Duncan would make it out of there somehow. But even just the way that he went, he heard the noises, he closed the door, and Paul of course tries to run after him, but it's locked from the other side. And then there's a small moment where you think he's already dead and he rises up again.
That
So
was
they
crazy.
That was cool.
That man was
They
fully stabbed. You could see the knife coming out of his back, and
He
he was
pulled
like,
it out.
"I live."
I don't know why. No,
Last
And
minute
then I
adrenaline
don't-
rush.
the funniest
Yeah.
thing to me was even though it was such a dramatic moment in my head, I'm like, why did you do a war cry? You could have surprised more people.
Oh my god, it's like an
Surprise
Avatar
people.
when Sokka's like, "Sneak attack." Sneak attacks don't work if you yell out "sneak attack."
Right.
No.
He's never gonna learn. He never learned. But I was still sad. Oh, man, Duncan, because I really like Duncan. I was surprised how much I connected with his character.
Yeah, he was probably the saddest death for me.
Yeah. I also did like when Dr. Kynes was killed. I think it was water. It was like that.
Yeah.
Instead of blood, yeah.
It was.
I thought that was a really cool visual. That again showed the movie throughout is like it getting us like, oh, here come the Fremen. Here we go. Here's a little bit more. Here's a little bit more, and then the ending. So I thought that was a nice touch to again show how distinct they are, and I'm interested because I feel like Dune Part 2 is going to feel very different, given that the Fremen are such different characters than
Mm-hmm.
the House Atreides as a whole, and so I'm interested. Like, will these films be very distinct? Like Lord of the Rings, all three movies feel like okay, this is just a one like 9-hour movie cut in 3. But Dune Part 2, I feel like could potentially be a very different film than Dune Part 1, which
More orange.
More orange. Who knows? Well, they're going back to Caladan, so I mean that's something we do know. We're gonna hopefully more rain.
Yeah.
Let's go rain.
Water.
Yeah, don't watch Dune if you don't have a bottle of water. Yes, like I did yesterday, and I'm regretting the decision because you're watching sand, and they always drink, and I'm like, oh,
That'd be
God.
good right about now. I liked how the callback with Dr. Liet Kynes when the sandworm first showed up and she was giving out her little speech of like, this is my master, that's the only one I serve. And it was like, bless him and his water, yada yada yada. I can't remember it, but that. And then at the end when she's dying and the emperor people's soldiers, it was like, you betrayed the emperor. Why? And she was like, I only serve one master. And then I still have it open, so I feel the need to just.
The same word that they always use.
Yes.
We haven't talked about the production design yet.
Yeah.
I loved it. Like when they were in the tent, I was just like, where are they? And when he suddenly sticks his hand and it comes out of sand, I was not expecting that. I was expecting a tent. And then when Duncan seals them in there and then there's like a secret passageway and they're going down that tunnel, I was like, wow.
The passageway that had dramatic timing to close after Timmy got in.
Yeah.
Shai Hulud. That's the name that they have for the worm. And then when she it was really good.
It also
10
set up the
recommend.
thumper for later.
Yes, the thumper.
The thumper.
The thumper.
So yeah, then pretty much Jessica and Paul, they have their whole flying escape sequence in the sandstorm, which was cool. They land, they get
They
dressed up.
crash.
They crash, that's true. They crash, they get dressed up in their Fremen suits. They run, and then I forget what type of sand they said. It was like setup sand that made noise pretty much.
Rum sand.
Yes. And
Isn't it so good I have it open?
yeah. And then the sandworm finally makes his first appearance.
Big boy.
Which I wish they didn't show in the trailer, to be honest, since it was so built
Yeah.
up too. But
That was the
yes.
yeah.
Don't watch trailers, everyone.
I still haven't seen the No Way Home trailer. I'm trying with that. Every
Wow.
time they show it, I'm
Wow.
That's an accomplishment.
just like
That's
yeah,
impressive.
yeah. I've heard it, but I haven't seen it. But yeah, I was just about the film in general, like the fact that the poster is just like the floating heads type of thing. But I'm like, listen, if it gets people in the theater to see it because they see all these people.
It's floating heads, but then you walk out and you point at everyone who died.
Yeah.
Most
The
of them.
letterbox poster is, I think, a beautiful poster. It
is.
like shadows and dunes like that.
Kind of like the book.
Yes.
Show us the book, Antony.
Show us the book. The book.
Yeah.
Ah,
Orange sand.
Lovely.
and the 2 moons.
2 moons.
Yeah. So any other thoughts on the escape scene or the sandworm scene?
I like that earlier that they show Paul, like he's so anxious to get there, and he's learning everything he can about the world and the people, so that he's not a Gary Sue, like, oh, this is how we have to cross so that we don't attract. I'm glad that they did that early on. So it's like, see, we watch him studying. Yeah. So that was a nice thing to do early, so that when it happened, you're not like, this is out of the clear blue. That helicopter in the store, I was like the whole time, especially since like one by one the blades break off. They didn't just crash; it was a very slow crash. I was like, oh my god, it's good stuff.
Very tense. I also liked how Paul had his Luke Skywalker, even though Luke Skywalker probably took this from Paul, his scene of like he saw the vision, it's like let go, and he like turned off all the controls and just listened to his heart, like Luke did in the first Star Wars. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah. Which, I mean, a credit to Timothée Chalamet, following Mark Hamill is no easy task, but I feel like he does it, he takes it in stride, he makes it his own. I think this could be for Timothy what maybe what Titanic was to DiCaprio, on a different scale, of course, because people don't see everything like they did in the past. Like, it's such a wider market. So I think things could go very well for him. This, I think, will become his role that people know him from, which is cool. One thing though, when they were getting changed, Rebecca Ferguson and Timothée Chalamet, and they kept looking behind at each other, did anybody get any like weird vibes? And I was like, what's going on here? Like,
very Epidus Rex.
Very, a little bit of incest every now and then.
I think she didn't know how to put the costume on, and he did, so
Yeah.
she was like looking at him, but then she realized he already like had undressed, so she was like, oh, okay.
They reminded me of La La Land when the two of them are walking away from the cafe and they each look at each other at different times. It's like,
yeah.
Or like Succession. If you're watching Succession, there was apparently this cut thing where two of the characters looked at each other when the other one wasn't looking, and because of that, they then wrote this whole subplot about the two of them in a relationship. And I'm like, maybe I'm just poisoned by that, but I'm like, please don't tell me that Rebecca Ferguson and Timothée Chalamet are ending this in a relationship, because I swear to God,
I don't think we're getting Oedipus
We're not
Rex.
going that Game of Thrones.
No.
No, not that good.
No incest in this house. Thank you very much.
Eddie, like an Oedipus Rex type play in my high school. It was it was Oedipus Rex, but reimagined as Oedipus's mother being a Jewish mother. It was a very funny play. It was called Eddie.
Eddie.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's my own thing looking at this, but the way the two, also because Rebecca Ferguson is not that old. So
there's only like a 12-year difference.
There's like a 12-year difference between them.
Yeah, so that's the other thing. It's like they're kind of contemporaries. There's as much of a difference, if not more, between her and Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
true.
I don't know. It was a weird scene.
Yeah, it was weird.
But they do look related. Like I totally believe that
They
they were
do.
brother and
They
son.
look. It's the cheekbones. The only
Mhm.
thing that Timmy got from Oscar was the hair. That's it.
Yeah.
Everything else is Rebecca.
True. So then, pretty much for this last stretch of the film, they meet the Fremen. The Fremen underestimate Lady Jessica, then she beats them up.
A weirding woman, Javier Bardem
Yeah.
calls him.
And then I believe his name is Jamis, challenges Paul to a duel, and they fight.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Another person of color who dies. And yeah, Timmy pretty much doesn't want to kill him, but he has to. It's the first man he's ever killed. I liked how the visions here like showed Jamis as like being a mentor in his future who would teach him things, but he ended up killing him.
Yeah,
Which
that's why I thought that he wasn't gonna die.
he kind of was teaching him the way of the deserts by learning he had to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I mean, I
they
like
just
it
walk
so
away.
it doesn't have like this whole thing of like there's free will still with these visions, which is my whole thing. It's like if you have visions or like somebody who knows everything, it's like, well, then what's the point? You know, our characters don't have agency. So I like that the visions shown that it's not always truthful.
Yeah. True.
During this, well, before we get to the duel, during the sequence when Paul, he was, I don't know what was, okay, for a second he was fighting someone and he rolled on top of a rock, he was fighting someone else, he rolled on top of another rock.
He got
And he
higher and
pulled out a
higher.
gun.
And then he got a space gun.
Yeah, like a space gun. And the entire, I like that, again, another tense sequence. But then after that, that's when Zendaya's Chani, is that how you pronounce her name?
Yeah.
Chani? When she shows up, I love the way she showed up. I know it just a few seconds, but even what she said, where she said, I wouldn't have let you hurt my friends. I'm like, wait, I like you already, even though I've only seen you in visions. I think that was a great way to introduce her. And she was just there that whole time that Paul thought he had the upper hand, literally and figuratively. I like that.
I'm on the high ground.
He really got there so quickly.
And he was
I couldn't
not.
follow. Yeah.
He had like a pounce thing. Like I feel like when he was fighting Gurney in the beginning, he would like pounce forward like a cat.
Yeah. That's why he's so skinny.
That's why.
I didn't think that Jamis was gonna die. Because again, the visions, and it was so disappointing. Because he was like mentor. But and again, it also
crazy.
was a good expectation subversion because we all thought that Jamis was gonna be the one to hand him the Chris knife. But it was Chani.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I thought it was interesting also that she gave him the knife to give him honor she was so sure that he was.
She was like, "You're
die.
gonna die.
Like, I'm like, okay,
We're gonna get your water, kid."
I know he's the outsider, but oh my gosh! But at least you gave him the knife. At least
Yeah.
there's that.
Little do you know, he's the protagonist of the movie.
Ooh, another thing that I also liked about the way that the visions were kind of interconnected with the fight was how the dialogue that was over it was like Paul Atreides needs to die, so then whatever Harak can live can be born. And then it was like, you can see it because then he kills a man. And the line before it was like, when you kill a man, when you have your first kill, you are also killing yourself. So it was like, it's very good, very well written.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was in the book, but like, yes, I like it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I feel like we saw all of Zendaya's scenes in the trailer, so
We
all the
did.
Zendaya
Well, they
fans
knew
got
what they were
baited.
doing with that one.
Yeah.
Baited.
That was
Yeah, they
literally
did.
why my friend wanted to go. She was like, I'm watching this movie for Zendaya. And I was like, she's in there for 10 minutes. And she was like, I'm watching it for Zendaya.
Yeah. Beginning and end.
Yep.
That's all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, listen, they've done this has happened in the past where they cast a big actor and they're barely in the first installment. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
I mean,
they'll have a bigger role.
it feels like very good setup for the next one because the next one I think is going to be more focused on Chani.
Yeah.
Because this one was
Mhm.
really Jessica based
Yeah.
for the female leads.
Not that there only needs to be one female lead.
No.
in the role.
but-
Because I'm hoping Rebecca still has a big. I feel like she should now that.
I mean, she's gonna be pregnant, so she'll get some stuff to do.
Oh.
Hello.
We're having our own vision.
Yeah. No clue.
Okay.
I will say, in terms of this sequence, I loved Javier Bardem. I liked seeing him again. I thought that the way they revealed Zendaya, I thought was really powerful because, you know, you're getting these visions of her throughout the entire movie. And when she finally arrives, like, I thought Villeneuve captured that really well. I was kind of mixed on this duel thing because I felt it was a little anticlimactic. I feel like after the bombast of the past 2 hours, the fact that it was this like little duel, I don't know. It felt like okay. I feel like, again, this is what I'm comfortable with in terms of making an analogy, so go with me here. The way Dune ends reminds me of the first Iron Man, where you have the Jeff Bridges fight, and
I don't remember anything from that movie.
all right, so Jeff Bridges is in the big suit, and they're fighting, and you're kind of like, okay, this is a fight at the end of the movie. Okay, it works, but it's not like the coolest thing. But then I Am Iron Man happens, and it ends on such a high point that you kind of like forget that. And that's how I felt Dune ends, because the ending, riding the sandworms, this is just the beginning. Hans Zimmer swells, leading up to that cut to black is so good. It may be like the best part of the movie is just how he finishes this off, that it kind of, you know, it makes me excuse the fact that I found the duel a little anticlimactic. Because if the whole thing was like he didn't want to take a life, like that was the thing that Rebecca Ferguson said. I was like, I wish they maybe have set that up a little bit more, because I don't know, something about this fact, because also like the fact that it's like, I challenge you for some reason, and then a scene later we're doing it. It's like, it felt a little rushed to me. It kind of, it felt kind of similar to in the first Hobbit, when you do the Gollum scene and like you're coming off the Gollum scene, and then you're like, wait a second, we have another, like we still have a third act to go. Like there's still more, like we have to
more movie.
There's more movie, and I'm like, I don't know, or maybe like the Hunger Games, when in Mockingjay Part 1, Katniss gets choked out by Peeta, and then it cuts to black, and then it keeps going, and you're like, wait a second, we're gonna still try to put a little bit more in here, but rush it to, like, I don't know. The duel I felt was nice, and I liked how it kind of capped Timothy's arc in this film, but it felt a little anticlimactic to me. But it was still fine, I guess.
Yeah, that's why I liked it, because it was a good cap to his overall arc in the film, and I felt like it was more intimate than a like huge bombastic like finale would have been. So I liked it. And then
you're right. It would have felt like it would have felt like, okay, give me a break. It definitely was a breather. It definitely brought things down again before the crescendo of the ending. So you're right. To that point, it does work. Maybe it was just a little disarming for me. Like
it did happen quick. Like, and I do think they should have established much earlier in the film, like maybe when he's training with Gurney, like you've never killed a man before.
The only thing that we got from that conversation was you've never met a Harkonnen. Not you've never killed a man.
I think they would have been much more intense if they knew that going into it, rather than having Lady Jessica say it and then like 10 seconds later he kills him. It's kind of like, oh, okay.
Or maybe Natalia, you go.
I think the thing that also didn't help it was the fact that we saw a vision clip of Paul dying in that fight. If we had just seen him die with like a stab wound and then cut to the bleeding hand, that would have been good, and not like an actual motion of a fight.
Yeah. I feel like maybe like if you've seen The Last Jedi, which I feel like many people have, there's a shot when Rey is training by herself on the island. That is the exact same movement that Kylo Ren, when he's fighting Luke, does. Like you can line them up. They do the exact same motions. And I feel like maybe if when he was practicing with Gurney, it was the same motions as when he's fighting at the end, then maybe there would have been a little bit more connection, and I would have felt that it maybe like it was a little bit more supported. It just didn't feel as supported as I was expecting the ending of the movie to have.
Yeah. I see that, yeah. And then pretty much the overall ending, they see someone riding worms and they walk into the future. It's only just the beginning, as Zendaya says. I think, a big complaint I see a lot with this film is, it's a part one and it's not a complete story. I feel like this tells a complete story. I feel like this is about Paul's journey and what happens to him. And I think it's very complete by the end. I mean, there's more story to tell, but I still think it's very completed by the end. I mean, people didn't say that stuff about like Infinity War or like, I don't know, like the first Lord of the Rings. So I don't know why it's such a big deal for this one. So I liked the ending.
Yeah, there's another thing with that. Right when it opens, it says Dune Part 1. It doesn't do the thing that it does. It waited until the end and it said It Chapter 1. Because when I went and saw it, there were people in my audience who were like, Chapter 1. They like screamed that. They were so mad. I didn't care because I knew the story. But since I didn't know this story right away, like I knew there was two parts because of our chat. But if, let's say I just went and watched this, I didn't know you guys and I went and saw it, I would have been like, thank you for telling me right out of the gate that there's going to be more. So when it does end abruptly, because I do think the ending is abrupt. But I feel like the more I thought about the movie, I was like, well, I don't know how to do it better. So I don't really want to criticize it. I'm like, oh, it's so abrupt. And it's like, okay, well, what would you do? I'd be like, I don't know if what I would do is better. So.
Yeah, Constance, it's funny. I feel like, I mean, the Zendaya line, this is just the beginning, may as well be It Chapter 1. Like, this is just the beginning. Get it? Come back for more, people. But personally, because I was thinking about, like, how much do I take in personally that this is not the ending of the story? How finite is this? And I look at it, well, if we never got Dune Part 2, let's say Warner Brothers was being their usual selves, which I don't think they're going to be with this case, which is
What a
great.
first.
Yeah.
But let's say we never got Dune Part 2. I don't know. I feel like I would have the same little quibbles I had with the Snyder Cut, which was like, this is such an interesting thing. Keep going. But if you're not going to keep going, then I have an incomplete story. Because I feel like with Fellowship, you had the Boromir arc with Sean Bean, Infinity War, Thanos is the main character. In Endgame, that's not the case. So those movies felt more contained than this one did. I feel like this one has a complete arc for Timmy that is going to keep going. But as for themes of this film alone, I don't know if I can say that it does. I feel like this has set up for themes that will get paid off in the next one. But I don't think this movie itself has self-contained themes that will be different in the next one. So that's my thing, is I agree with Constance. I do feel the ending is a bit abrupt, but I don't think that means the film is inherently, like, I don't say that with any like negative connotation really. It's just, he's making a long form story and I have to wait for Dune Part 2 to see how Dune Part 1 goes. Like It Chapter 2. I love It Chapter 1. If It Chapter 2 is better, I think It Chapter 1 would be an improved movie, but it doesn't mean that I can't look at them independently. So I'm excited to see how Dune Part 2 takes what was set up here and continues.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay, so that's the whole movie. Any other final thoughts on the movie as a whole that anyone wants to express?
Rebecca looked good.
Of
She had a lot of
course.
outfits.
She did though. I saw a whole video, actually was your tweet, Nat, but I saw like
Probably.
pictures of her, and I think the pensive hands
That was
and her
me,
in different
baby.
gowns. Yeah, that was her. That was you. And her in different gowns. I'm like, even though that gown was impractical from earlier, it was so beautiful, especially in like the still image with the colors.
Also, we had such a lack of that red dress.
Right?
Why
Yeah.
did we need more red dress, Rebecca, please?
My final thought was just like, yeah. So my final thoughts, man, I love this movie so much. I was surprised by how much I love this movie. As I said earlier, it is rivaling how much I love the Snyder Cut, even though
I can't wait to see your end of the year list.
I know it's gonna be emotional turmoil to put that together. I'm scared, but I'm just so shocked because this is more sci-fi, and the thing is, I'm more of a fantasy person, and yes, sci-fi and fantasy interconnect sometimes, but they're different. So I think that's also why I was shocked by how much I enjoyed this. And even with the ending, I was actually, since a lot of people saw this movie a month ago and there was already some reviews coming out for it, some people did say the ending was very I had a comparison for it in my head, but they did say the ending was, abrupt and, oh, this just feels like incomplete. But so I think I was imagining a worse ending of where it could possibly end that would make me feel like, oh, what in the world? So I think that I still like the ending of like, oh, we see the sandworm and someone riding the sandworm. This is just the beginning. Because it just makes me want more, not like this wasn't enough. And I guess that's the best way I can say that. But I will be watching this movie a lot. I appreciate that was on HBO Max, but I like that I did get to see it in theaters first.
Yeah. Agreed. I really liked it. I think it was, It's easily my favorite of the year. I think just the world building in general is really well done. As we all said, the exposition is really well handled. I really connected with and liked a lot of the characters. The action was surprisingly good. The visual effects, like the production design, the costumes, all of that,
So much of it was practical.
it felt so real.
I
Like
couldn't
I
tell
think,
what was
Yeah.
not. Like they really
yeah,
they
Yeah.
melded them very well.
Yeah.
I think the only other filmmaker who does big movies like this who can achieve that level of realism is probably Nolan. And I think this is probably even more real than some of Nolan's films. So I think Denis really nailed this. He should be very happy. And I'm very happy that we're going to be getting a part 2.
Can I just say final notes?
Yeah.
I want this to be, because this movie, the box office it's coming in around 40 million for the opening weekend with an HBO Max release, which is above expectations from the studio. I think it was supposed to be with a 3 in front of it. It has a 4.
Mhm.
I believe, again, we'll find out soon what the official numbers are. But I do think that in the end, this is getting a lot of praise. I'm calling it now. I think sound, score, maybe score,
Rebecca.
production.
Rebecca.
Well, in a perfect world.
I'm afraid.
Italian's
No.
gonna will it into being.
Will. I speak it into existence.
But listen, I think this shows that don't judge everybody by one movie or one thing, because I feel like Blade Runner 2049 was one of the biggest flops of all time. I love the movie. I think that's my favorite Denis film, but it was not well received commercially. But Warner Brothers gave him another shot, and look what we have now. And even me, who I told everybody, I feel like of this panel I'm the most critical, but I obviously love a lot of what this movie had, and I really like the film overall. Give filmmakers a chance, because I feel like a lot of times when bold things are happening in this industry, it's like one and done. If it doesn't work, then we're never going to do it again. And I hope that this is proof that no, if we do something bold and it doesn't work, give the person another shot. Because a lot of times, like even when things work, like look at Nolan. Batman Begins was really good, but Dark Knight is one of the best movies ever made. Look at Snyder. I think he definitely grew from Man of Steel and Watchmen to Batman v Superman and the Snyder Cut. So I hope that when it terms of big budget genre storytelling, we give filmmakers the opportunity to grow. You know, currently we're seeing the Eternals reactions come out. So if Chloe Zhao wants to make another big blockbuster, give her the opportunity. Because Denis Villeneuve definitely, I think, even if I like Blade Runner 2049 more, I think you can see that he really grew as a filmmaker with Dune. So I love what this movie represents, and I hope we get more of it. And it doesn't go just straight to HBO Max. I hope we get more in theaters and people go see it the way it's meant to be seen.
Speaking of more, there is a Bene Gesserit show that is going to happen, and we're all very excited. Denny is kind of sort of part of it. I think he's just doing producing stuff. I don't know how heavily he is going to be in it. Rebecca isn't doing it. But
Rambling? Is Charlotte Rampling doing it?
she better. If
She
anyone's going to come from the Bene Gesserit into this, it better be Charlotte Rampling. But Rebecca isn't doing it because she's doing her show Wool for Apple TV Plus. Very exciting. That's why she chopped her hair off.
She's got a little movie coming out in Natalia, I think, or 2 movies.
She has Mission. She has Wool, and
June
what?
part 2.
And Dune Part 2.
Part 2.
Yeah.
I'm calling it now. I think 2024 is when we're getting this movie. I think it's
December 2024.
December.
That's what I think. That's good for. That's where it was
Yeah.
initially slated. There won't be a Star Wars movie in.
Oh,
2024.
yeah. Yeah, October is a weird time for it. It's not super spooky.
It'll be what, Avatar 3, but I mean it's not going to happen because
Oh,
Avatar
true.
3, Avatar 2 will never come out, so, which means
Yeah.
Avatar.
What's
Who knows?
happening with that?
No one knows.
Yeah,
No one knows.
who cares?
Like home tree
Literally.
has fallen and may never get back up.
Okie doke. Constance, anyone else? Any final thoughts?
Just definitely, I will always tell people to go to the theater, but definitely go to the theater for this particular one. This demands your eyeballs on a very big screen. So if you care about movies at all, and I like to think that you're listening to us because you at least kind of care, yes, you have to support this movie in a theatrical setting, because that's just the kind of thing that it is. So that's my takeaway as a non-sci-fi person. You know, I went there to support Jack and others, and I had such a good time. I thought, okay, it'll be medium to, oh, I'll appreciate the competency of this, but I might walk away going, oh yeah, if I didn't have these friends, I might have skipped that. But I'm so glad that's not how I feel. I'm like, oh, this really is good. I can't wait for some more. So yes, that's my 2 cents. Please go see it in theaters.
Yeah,
We
Constance,
appreciate the support.
if people aren't a fan of movies, I don't know how you sit through almost the same runtime of Dune long spoiler review
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
Dune. Hopefully you've seen the movie, because if not, I apologize. You just spoiled the hell out of it. But still
You've pretty
good.
much seen it.
We're gonna put spoilers in all caps, and if Spotify can let us do block, then
Okay.
please. But yes, spoilers.
Spoilers.
That was our spoiler review of Dune, one of the best movies of the year. Go check it out. We have merch coming up that could possibly be Dune related. You know, keep your eye out for that. Follow us on all the social medias. I'm afraid I don't have them memorized by heart, but it's the Council Pod in some sort of configuration with underscores and such. You'll find us.
Exactly.
And yeah, thank you for listening, and check us out next week for another episode. Goodbye.
Everyone say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.